Riker and Maverick join me on the platform. Give them a welcome. And if you will, with conviction, join me in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now you can be seated. Thank you very much for your cooperation. We do have a special guest tonight. I'd like to invite Senator Mike Pike to the platform to give a greeting. Would you give him a welcome to the conference?
Who all lives in Pleasant Hill, Altoona, the east side of Des Moines? So quite a few of you out there. Well, I'm happy and also humbled to say that I am your state senator. I don't want to talk too much about myself because this evening is about another man. But there's a lot of hope in this, see, because the east side of town has never been represented by, in fact, the east side of Des Moines proper has never been represented by a Republican. I went back at least 40 years. I know some boundaries have changed, but the point is, we are taking ground. We're also not taking ground because we're mealy mouse Republicans that just want to talk about lowering taxes and blah, blah, blah. I went to many homes. I have 5 daughters, one of them's here tonight. And I went to many homes and said, you know, you want to know really why I'm running? I'll tell you why I'm running, because I have 5 daughters and I went down to the Capitol to talk about defining a woman, and the fact that I have to make that statement is absolutely ridiculous to start with. But much like Adam's story of running, I felt a stirring in my heart that I have to go from whining and complaining about things to doing something about it, to taking action. And so I jumped in and I said, you know what? Against all odds, I don't care. Odds mean nothing to me. I'm going to run hard. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to give the glory to God. And by his work, I ended up winning the seat. And I say that because it does take action. And tonight we're going to hear from a man who, this is where it all began. You know, this is where he made his announcement. He's going to get up and give you guys action steps. Because it takes more than just him going door to door knocking. It takes everyone. But when we do this, we can succeed, and in fact, we will succeed. So with that, I'll hand it back to the pastor. Thanks.
We have a special guest this evening that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, Steve Deace, a nationally recognized commentator, best-selling author, and radio host that's based right here in Iowa. For more than 2 decades, Steve has been part of the national conversation on politics, culture, and faith, consistently pressing beyond talking points to ask deeper questions about conviction, consistency, and leadership. With a strong biblical worldview, Steve has regularly called believers to think carefully and biblically about culture, government, and public life. He's not afraid to ask the hard questions or challenge comfortable assumptions, and his work has encouraged many Christians to engage the public sector with clarity and conviction. What has distinguished Steve's work over the years is not simply that he holds strong views, but that he's been willing to challenge everyone, regardless of party, when he believes that principles are being compromised. That posture has earned him both loyal followers and serious critics, which is often the mark of someone more interested in truth than in applause. Steve approaches public life through a moral and philosophical lens shaped by Christian faith and a conviction that ideas have consequences for families, communities, and the future of our state and nation. Whether people agree or disagree with him, his call for clarity, accountability, and honest conversation in the public square is undeniable. We're glad to have him with us tonight, and would you put your hands together and welcome Steve Dace.
Thank you guys very much for coming out here tonight and for the applause. This is my 20th year working full-time in politics. And I am getting old. June 12, 2006 is when I made my debut on WHO radio. And when I took over on WHO radio that summer, we were on our way to getting absolutely annihilated in that midterm election. And we were in the midst of the Iraq quagmire, and the Bush administration just could not figure out a message to get out from underneath that. We would go on and lose the 2008 election badly. We would suspend free market principles to save the free market. This is warm and fuzzy memories on a wintry Thursday night, are they not? And I remember when I took over on WHO, if you know anything about me at all, if you have spent any private time with me at all, I hate losing. I detest it. All right, show me a gracious loser, and I will show you a loser every time. And whatever the line is to not blatantly cheat, I will go right up to it to win. I don't believe in the Kobayashi Maru. I don't believe in the no-win scenario. But I also don't believe selling our soul is a win. And I don't think I've never believed the King of the Universe honors that. And so sometimes I'd be accused of not being pragmatic. And I always thought that was kind of silly to me. What's more pragmatic than opening the one book written by the only perfect, undefeated being in the history of the universe, reading it, and trying to make sure you emulate as best as you can what he said, because he never loses. That's the most pragmatic thing you get to do. And a lot of times when you hear from politicians, be more pragmatic, what it really means is, look the other way while I sell you out. That's really what it means. Or I punk out and vote for me anyway. And so when I took over, Democrats ended up having, for the first time when I took over, they ended up having total control of the state of Iowa for the first time since Reconstruction, for the first time since the modern two-party system. They had the governor's mansion. They had 59 members of the Iowa House. They had 33 members of the Iowa Senate. It was 33 to 17. And I began immediately challenging the people who had lost, because I don't like losing. And I was told that I was going to be the reason why we were going to lose more. And that I was using this 50,000-watt blowtorch in order to make sure that Democrats just won forever by questioning the very Republican leadership that led to this situation, and to find out, can we do better? Why did we lose? And one of the things that they were the most threatened by, I learned, I really wanted to believe, and believe me, my ego really wanted to believe, and it was my ability to command and commandeer that microphone and make these powerful, eloquent arguments. They didn't care about any of that. I did. They didn't care. What really threatened them the most is that I gave you a voice with that microphone.
Sure. Yep. Right.
That's what threatened them the most.
Right.
What threatened them the most is that when we got grassroots people elected, they would literally walk right out of the cloakroom of the State House, call the hotline at WHO, get right on the air, and tell you as you were driving home from work, right where the establishment was going to screw you and sell you out, and they named names. That's what they were threatened by. And we ended up having, in 2008 and 2010, an all-time record statewide, more challenges of Republican incumbents than had ever happened in the history of a primary cycle in the state of Iowa. We had 2008 and 2010 broken. And the entire time they screamed and yelled, they called Van Harden and Joel McRae, my radio management, demanding my firing. One still very powerful power broker in the Republican Party, Bruce Rastetter, threatened to pull all $975,000 he was advertising in HO on the farm show unless WHO fired me immediately. Their answer was, well, we billed $2 million in Dace's show last year, so the math doesn't add up. So that's not going to work out. All right? And I tell you all of this because here's what I want you to know. When I left WHO, And I still remember Van trying to talk me out of it, and he said, Steve, no one has ever left WHO and gone on to bigger and better things, except Ronald Reagan. And I was like, well, challenge accepted. All right. I was already leaning this way, Van, but you just kind of talked me right into it. Let's see what happens. But here's the thing. When I was told I was the most divisive force ever, and I was going to make it that Democrats could never win. So when I took over total Democratic control of this state for the first time since right after the Civil War. When I left, we had a Republican governor. We had 60 Republicans. It flipped from 59 Republicans in the House to 59 Democrats in the House to 60 Republicans in the Iowa House. And there was a tie in the state Senate. And oh, by the way, we made American history. We're still the only state in the history of America to throw out Supreme Court justices over their own opinions by popular referendum. Now, one show didn't do hardly all of that alone. It was the biggest microphone for sure. But you guys went out there and did the work. And other leaders and people like my buddy Bob Vanderplaats went out there and organized you guys and is still organizing you guys. And what's happened now since I have left is the state has gotten increasingly redder. You guys have taken the ball and you have run with it. And now I get the benefit of traveling the country. And I can tell you right now, almost every segment of the Republican Party around America would trade our arguments and problems for the ones they have right now. The work that you guys have done over the last 15 years is incredible. This is the biggest transformation of a state from blue to purple to red. I'm old enough to remember when we were represented by Tom Harkin's mailbox in the U.S. Senate. That just sounds like, now we think Joni Ernst isn't Republican enough. You're right about that, by the way, but we're not here for that right now, all right? My point being is, we have moved the ball further to the right than any singular state in the Union has, with maybe one possible exception of Florida, over the last 15 years. But you know what the hardest thing to do in sports is, other than win a championship? Win it again. Man, it's hard. The extra work, the extra practice, the extra time, it takes a lot out of you. And then you kind of want to celebrate, and you kind of want to get complacent, and you want to look back fondly on the nostalgia of that accomplishment. Meanwhile, everybody else is still practicing. Everybody else is still working out. Everybody else, they've got the chip on the shoulder now. And when you show up in the gym, when you show up on the field, now you're the biggest game of the year. And I'm telling you right now, we have lost our edge. There are still plenty of Iowans who still are shocked to learn Kim Reynolds is not running. She only announced that 9.5 months ago. Right now, I think it is possible we won't have as many people vote in this statewide primary. We have not had a gubernatorial primary in 15 years. They don't happen often in Iowa. We may have fewer people vote in that than voted in the 2016 Iowa caucuses. We are complacent. We've gotten a little soft. And meanwhile, over on the other side is Rob Sand, where the entire hopes of an Iowa Democratic Party that we have all worked for the last 15 years to bury in a shallow grave, all their hopes rest in him. They pass the plate in rooms like this. Well, not rooms like this, because they wouldn't come into a room like this. But in whatever they think a church is, they pass the plate. And right now, there's about $10 million in that collection plate. They're not running, they don't care about who's running against state senators like Mike Pike or your legislator in the next cycle. They're not paying attention to any of that. They are all in. This is their battle of the bulge right here, the last offensive of the Iowa Democratic Party. And this guy is something else I have to tell you. I mean, this guy actually flaunts misquoting the Bible. This guy is going to stand on a debate stage later this year, mark my words. He's going to stand on a debate stage with whoever wins this primary in June, and he is going to take the Word of God and turn it on us and claim that he owns it, because he's doing it all over social media now. I see it. And there are moments in a campaign when you know for sure when you're going to win and when you're going to lose. I was joking with Adam the other day when I was on the Cruz campaign in 2016. When did I really know we were going to lose to Trump? It's when I thought for sure. I was on the debate prep team for Ted in his presidential election. And Trump was trying to get to the right of us on the immigration issue. And frankly, we didn't think that he knew what he was talking about at the time. And he started dropping this term, anchor babies. Now, you guys all know what that means because we've been using it for 20 years. But we didn't think he knew what it meant. And so we thought we had him cornered on the term. And when the moderator asked Trump to define what the term means, and I'm sitting back there in the green room, and I sit straight up. I'm like, I'm going to get a job in the White House. All right? We got him now. All right? And Trump starts stuttering and stammering, And I'm like, yeah, we got him. And then, this was the debate that Rand Paul wasn't supposed to be in because he didn't poll high enough. But they let him in as a pity vote because he's a senator. But they put him way at the end of the stage because he only had 1% in the polls. And so Trump is completely cornered, doesn't know what he's going to say. And instead of giving in to the moderator and admitting he doesn't know what he's talking about, he turns to Rand Paul. I'm laughing now. It cost me a job at the time. He turns to Rand Paul and he says, by the way, what the heck is Rand Paul doing here tonight? He doesn't have the polling to get up on this stage. Who allowed this to happen? And he just starts dogging Rand Paul hard. And everybody forgot the question, and everybody started laughing, and everybody started cheering. And I thought, and here's the thing, I'm now in the green room, I'm laughing. I'm like, wait a minute, this joke is on us. The joke's on us. We just lost. I knew Joni Ernst was going to win when Bruce Braley tried to corner her on signing off on a personhood bill that I helped to author in the Iowa legislature at the time. And instead of backing down, she owned that vote. And that's when I knew, okay, our base will turn out for her. She's going to win. Then there's other moments you're going to lose. And it's when Mike Huckabee organizes the greatest single turnout for a private business according to the Guinness Book of World Records of all time. Chick-fil-A Day. Remember that about 15 years ago? Remember they were going to boycott Chick-fil-A over gay marriage, try to shut them down? Instead, it ended up being the biggest single day of business for a fast food joint ever in world history. But do you guys remember there was one important person who didn't show up for Chick-fil-A Day? Do you remember who that was? The Republican nominee for president, Mitt Romney, didn't show up. And instead, when he was asked by the DC media what he thought of Chick-fil-A Day, he goes, that's not a part of my campaign. That's not what I'm about. And I thought, yeah, we lost. When that moment hits the stage this fall, and when Rob Sand attempts to boldly and demonically take the Word of God out of our hands and whip us with it, whoever's standing next to him at that time representing us and how they respond is going to determine that election, I promise you. And so you have two options in this race. Well, really you have a third. And right now I'm concerned that too many people are taking the third, which is, I got too much to do, I'm tired, I'm bored. I'll just wait till it's over and, we'll just unite and win. I can promise you, I've been involved in elections full-time for 20 years, all over the country, from school board to president. There's never been an election our side has won when we just thought during the primary, I don't care who wins, we'll just, unite afterwards and win. We lose that election every time, I promise. Every one. I've lost every one of those. And so have you. And you'll lose this one too if you choose option 3. Now, if you're here tonight, you're not thinking about option 3. Otherwise, you'd be at home in a warmer house, relaxing in your chair. So you're here tonight because you know option 3 isn't an option. So then there are two options before all of you. The first option is, I don't do what it takes for this guy to win. I don't do my part. I don't knock on every door. I don't write every check. I don't post everything. And I just let the guy with the highest name ID and the most money win, who can't even bother to show up. We had the largest gathering of activists that will occur before this primary last July at the Family Leadership Summit. How many of you went to that event? I guess a lot of hands in this room were there, several of you. 1,100 Iowa activists at that event. You would think if you were running for governor at the time, you'd show up there to shake every hand. Randy Feenstra had already announced he was running. He didn't show up, didn't shake any hands. We had a debate the other night. Didn't show up, didn't answer any questions. Might I suggest that if you cannot answer questions from Moms for Liberty, if you're afraid to answer those questions, if you're afraid to answer questions from Republican members of the state legislature, a former COO for Governor Reynolds. If you're afraid to answer questions from them out of fear of what you'll put on the record, my goodness, what will you do in a general election when the entire corporate media aligns behind Rob Sand to take you on? What are you going to do then? One of my favorite movies is The Dark Knight. There's a line in that movie that applies to politics quite a bit. And it's when the Joker looks at the mob and he says, I know the squealers, and that one's a squealer. I can promise you the guy that doesn't show up to hear from his own base, that's the squealer every time. And that is the guy, I promise you, that is the guy when Rob Sand looks at him and says, you're all a bunch of racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic bigots, and the Bible says so. That's the guy whose pivot will be, that's just like his spiritual father, Mitt Romney, that's not a part of my campaign. I'm here to talk about jobs and the economy. And long after he loses and goes back to his congressional pension or whatever fake job on a board of directors his large donors buy for him, because that's how this always ends for guys like that. It'll be you people in this room, and it'll be your families, and it'll be the seats that are empty here tonight. You'll be the ones that Rob Sand will weaponize the government to come after. It'll be you. It won't be Randy Feenstra. He'll ride off. He's got a congressional pension and a board of directors at some corporation that you can't afford that awaits him if he loses this race. And he knows that. That's why he doesn't come talk to people like you. Because he has nothing to lose. If he wins, great. If he loses, even greater. And that's the facts from an Iowan that's probably had more access to national politics than any person from this state has probably ever had. Me. That's the facts. That's how this system works. Or, apparently all that matters in this race is who's tall. Okay? Well, this guy over here is tall. Or we could put somebody next to Rob Sand who will punch back. We can put somebody next to Rob Sand who will punch back, who will defend our way of life and defend our values, and inspire our base and turn them out so we have a chance. Because this year, this cycle is going to be an uphill climb. In 2018, we lost 40 House seats. But here's what's interesting. Kim Reynolds won. And you want to know why Kim Reynolds won and why she overperformed every Republican running for Congress in Iowa that year? Because she did something all our consultants at the time told her not to do. She signed that heartbeat bill. The strongest pro-life bill in Iowa history, and the bill that helped lead to the overturning of Roe versus Wade at the U.S. Supreme Court. She signed that. She didn't back away from it, and she didn't run from it. And so the folks like you in this audience, you turned out for her in ways you didn't turn out for a bunch of Republican members of Congress who didn't fight for you. Whichever side's base is this is a midterm election, the turnout will be way smaller than a presidential election. And whichever side's base is the most inspired is going to win. Their side is at max split right now. And they've taken every penny they have and they've given it to Rob Sand, who didn't need the money in the first place because he married into it. They've put all their hopes, they're going to resurrect the Iowa Democratic Party off of him. And when he takes over, there'll be guys like Mike in the Senate that will try to stop him, that don't exist in places like Minnesota and California. But rest assured, his goal is to Virginia, Minnesota, and California, this state, in 5 minutes, because that's what his kind always do. And then a lot of the things that we worked for over the last 15 years, we may not be able to pass on to our kids and grandkids. And I'm sorry, but that's a loss. So this is the moment, the classic rom-com moment. And you race to the altar. The guy she's not supposed to be with tries to race her to the altar. And the guy she's supposed to be with races to get there before the preacher says what? What's the line? Speak now, forever hold your peace. That moment's coming in about 3.5 months. First Tuesday in June. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. We can do what it takes to win now. See, I'm a skate to where the puck is, not where the puck is, where the puck is going, not where the puck is guy. When you see a train coming, Get out of the way. That's my advice. Don't just sit there and say, well, we know it's coming, let it run us over. We have to put somebody next to Rob Sand that will punch back, that will fight back, that shares our value system, really believes in it. It's not a transaction. Doesn't look at you as just a vote, but as a peer, as a brother and a sister, as a fellow Iowan. And one more thing about Adam you should know too, is he is prepared to govern on day one. He has been helping to govern this state for the last 5 years. One of the things I've seen a lot when believers run for office for the first time, listen, I'm a big worldview guy. It's the foundation of everything I do. But you have to still be able to do the job. Right. When you get elected, they don't sit there and give you a philosophy exam and a theology quiz. Can you do the job? Can you do the job? All right, when something breaks in my house, I cannot do the job. I call Mike. All right? I can't do that job. I put my biblical worldview up against most, but when something breaks in my house, it doesn't help me fix the drain. I call Mike. Can you do the job? Adam is ready to govern on day one. He's been helping Kim govern for the last 5 years. We have a unique opportunity here. Someone with the right worldview, but then also the qualifications and capabilities to do the job day one, to maintain all of the gains we've made the last 15 years, and then go on offense from day one. I'm out here in the wintertime, going across the state, which I really don't like to do. Not that I don't like all of you, but you're prettier in June, July, and August. Okay? But I'm doing this because this is the speak now or forever hold your peace moment.
Right.
And that's why this is the first of several stops we'll be making around the state between now and June. Because my hope is that I'm about to introduce to you the next governor of the state of Iowa, Adam Steen.
Right here on this platform. And when I announced my candidacy, I said, I've never felt more comfortable that this is the exact right thing to do. And today is proof of that. I've never felt more comfortable that this was the exact right thing to do. It's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And looking around tonight, I see Iowans.
Yeah.
I see grit.
Come on.
I see toughness.
Yeah.
I see those willing to stand in the gap.
Yeah.
We're the ones that work the land. We run our businesses. We raise our kids. We show up to church. We coach the teams. We're the ones who keep this state standing. And we keep this state moving forward.
Yeah.
That's us. That's who we are. And tonight I'm going to talk about hope. I'm going to talk about hope for the future, hope for our families, and hope for our children. But tonight I'm also going to talk about getting very, very real about what's going on right now. We're going to talk about the reality of the situation that we as Iowans are facing. The reality is we're in a spiritual battle. This is good versus evil. It's a battle of good versus evil, and we've got to call it what it is. We've got to speak truth in it. We cannot shy away from what this battle is. And I was at risk. I was at risk of becoming Minnesota, Illinois, California, and now we're at risk of becoming probably Virginia after the election of a moderate candidate for governor. Take a look at all those states, higher taxes, bigger government, billions wasted to fraud. Policies that put criminals ahead of working families and policies that put children at risk. They refuse to accept the law and order that President Trump is bringing forth to this country finally. Finally. But they're refusing to do it. And those aren't just talking points, that's reality. That's actually what's happening right now. And Minnesota didn't fall apart overnight. It happened over time. One excuse at a time, one election at a time. Minnesotans cast but a glance at the fraud, the waste, and the failures to protect its citizens. And now, Minnesota has spiraled out of control, and taxpayers are left holding the bag. I mentioned Virginia. They just voted in a supposed moderate governor. Instantly, that moderate laid out political agendas that rivals the agendas happening in Minnesota right now. Look it up yourself. Ran as a moderate, just like Rob Sand is running right now. So if you want to see a map, if you want to see a playbook of what Rob Sand is going to do, look at Virginia and watch what happens to Virginia. Virginia will become Minnesota. But I refuse to let Iowa go down that road. I refuse to let fraud become a talking point. I refuse to funnel resources meant for Iowa families, Iowa schools, and Iowa communities. I refuse to funnel those to criminals and thugs. Iowa is not Minnesota, Illinois, or California. And as governor, I will keep Iowa, Iowa. The culture that we hold so dear is not a guarantee. Our culture is not guaranteed. And history tells us exactly how we lose our culture. It happens because people get divided. It happens because people step back instead of stepping forward. We lose our culture when we separate ourselves and hope someone else steps up and stands in the gap. We lose our culture by backing down and creating division. Division is how we lose, but unity is how we win. I refuse to stand by and let Iowa slowly turn into something that we don't recognize. I will not sit back. I will stand in the gap. And this is the moment, not to sit back, not to wait, not to hope someone else stands up. This is the moment to stand up, to step out, and fight.
Lord, a great big hand. Let's all stand.